Now, we've been reporting on questionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard, but we only knew half the
Tiffany Henyard has long been a divisive figure, drawing attention as the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dolton, Illinois. But now, it looks like she might be in way over her head. Rumors are circulating that Henyard, once seen as untouchable, may be secretly negotiating with the FBI in a desperate attempt to avoid criminal charges. Word on the street is that she's willing to turn on anyone who helped her climb to power, potentially throwing her allies under the bus in a last-ditch effort to save herself. Just months ago, Henyard was riding high, juggling her roles as both the mayor of Dolton and the supervisor of Thornton Township. She built her image as a reformer, promising to clean up the village and restore order. But now, as investigations into corruption, mismanagement, and possible criminal activity intensify, Henyard's past is catching up to her. Sources close to the situation say Henyard is in talks with federal authorities, trying to strike a deal that would keep her out of prison. The most shocking part? She may be willing to betray the very people who helped her consolidate power and build her political empire. Her legal team, reportedly made up of 2 high-powered criminal defense attorneys, is working overtime to secure a plea deal. It's clear that Henyard's loyalty to those who helped her rise through the ranks has its limits, and with the pressure mounting, she might be ready to throw anyone under the bus to save herself. The big question now is, how far will she go, and who will be left standing when the dust settles?
You are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big meetings.
Tiffany Henyard's defense attorneys, who have represented some high-profile figures, are working around the clock to secure the best possible deal for the embattled mayor. But as the pressure mounts, Henyard's inner circle, the same people who helped her orchestrate one of the boldest power grabs in local politics, are now left wondering if they're about to be thrown under the bus. Henyard's rise wasn't a solo venture. She had a tight-knit team behind her, including key players like Keith Freeman, her former right-hand man. Freeman was the trusted advisor who helped Henyard maintain control over both Dolton and Thornton Township, overseeing everything from finances to her controversial charity. But their partnership quickly unraveled when Freeman was hit with federal charges for bankruptcy fraud. Henyard reportedly tried to distance herself from Freeman, even attempting to fire him publicly at a village board meeting, a move that backfired. Freeman's fall from grace is just one example of how quickly Henyard is willing to cut ties when things start to go south. Now, rumors are swirling that Freeman may be cooperating with federal investigators, a development that could be disastrous for Henyard. Another key figure in Henyard's circle was Lacy, the former deputy police chief of Dolton. Lacy, no stranger to controversy, was charged with multiple allegations of misconduct. His involvement in Henyard's operation only deepens the scandal. As Henyard's legal team scrambles to strike a deal, those who once helped her build her empire are now facing the very real possibility of being dragged down with her.
Absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit you're
facing bankruptcy fraud charges. Lacy, the former deputy police chief of Dolton, was reappointed by Tiffany Henyard to lead the police department, even after protests from village trustees. This move only highlighted Henyard's defiance and her unwavering determination to hold on to power at any cost. But, much like Keith Freeman, Lacy's loyalty to Henyard has since eroded. Now that federal authorities are involved, Lacy finds himself caught up in the investigation, with his name linked to questionable overtime pay records. He reportedly earned over $200,000 in overtime despite not being eligible, raising suspicions that these funds might have been part of a larger scheme, possibly orchestrated by Henyard herself. As the heat on him grows, Lacy may be looking to strike a deal of his own to protect himself. And the drama doesn't end there. Henyard's former assistant, Carmen Carlile, once one of her most devoted supporters, has turned against her as the scandal unfolded. Carlile has accused Henyard of unethical behavior and predatory practices, alleging that the mayor manipulated employees and vendors to funnel taxpayer money into her personal projects and luxury expenses. In a public statement, Carlile said that for the past 2 years, Henyard has manipulated employees, vendors, and residents to expand her influence while maintaining a false image of success. These explosive allegations have put Carlile at odds with Henyard, marking a significant break from the trust they once shared. As the investigation deepens, it's becoming clear that Henyard's empire is crumbling, and those closest to her could very well be the ones to bring it all down.
Feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor...
Good evening. An illegal appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel.
Carmen Carlile's whistleblower claims against Tiffany Henyard went far beyond vague accusations, offering damning details about Henyard's administration and its lavish spending habits. Carlile revealed a disturbing pattern of wasteful expenditures, including first-class flights, five-star hotels, and extravagant dining, all funded by taxpayers. One trip to Austin, Texas, reportedly cost the village over $20,000, and, with Henyard and her entourage piling up luxury hotel bills and indulging in expensive steakhouse dinners. Even more shocking was the discovery that Henyard spent $33,000 and in a single day on Amazon purchases. These kinds of excessive expenses have now become a key focus of the federal investigation into Henyard's misuse of village funds. Henyard's reckless spending has raised alarms for months, with village trustees demanding more transparency. The financial fallout is impossible to ignore. The village general fund balance dropped from a surplus of over $5 million in 2022 to a nearly $4 million deficit by 2024, a catastrophic collapse many are attributing to Henyard's unchecked spending. An investigation led by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, hired to examine Henyard's financial dealings, uncovered a sharp increase in police costs under Henyard's leadership. Some officers were earning more in overtime than their base salaries, with one officer reportedly racking up over $100,000 and in overtime in just 1 year, more than double his base pay. As the federal investigation intensifies, it's becoming clear that this scandal could take down more than just Henyard. With many of her closest allies already facing legal trouble, the probe could uncover a much larger web of corruption, implicating far more than just the mayor herself.
Wrong is wrong, and there's a time to hold people responsible and accountable for.
The scandal surrounding Tiffany Henyard is no longer just about one person. It's about a network of individuals who have for years worked together to line their pockets at the village's expense. As the pressure builds, Henyard is reportedly ready to turn on everyone she once trusted if it means avoiding prison time. In recent weeks, the tension between Henyard and the village board has reached a breaking point. Trustees voted to block her from using village credit cards for unapproved purchases and imposed strict limits on spending for special events. These moves are seen as an attempt to rein in Henyard's influence and curb her lavish spending, but the mayor isn't backing down. She's defied multiple board decisions and continues to push her own agenda, even as the federal investigation tightens around her. Those who once supported Henyard are now speaking out against her. Thornton Township trustee Chrissy Gonzalez, who was once by her side, has been vocal about her wasteful spending. He criticized her for approving events that weren't even in the township's budget, such as the infamous Taste of Thornton Township event, where Henyard spent $85,000, and on a mini-concert featuring artists like Erkak Wed and rapper Jay Holiday. Despite the event's poor turnout, Henyard still paid top dollar for performers' 30-minute sets. Gonzalez's criticism is just the latest sign that Henyard's support is crumbling. With rumors swirling about a potential deal with the FBI, the question on everyone's mind is, who will take the fall for the empire Henyard built? And are any of her inner circle prepared to face justice alongside her?
More than just the mayor herself.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing.
Tiffany Henyard decides to betray her allies to save herself. It could mark the end of their careers, and possibly their freedom. Figures like Keith Freeman, Lacy, and Carmen Carlile, who once stood by her side, now face the very real possibility of being dragged into this scandal. The big question on everyone's mind is whether they'll strike their own deals with the feds to avoid prison time or take the fall alongside Henyard. As the clock ticks down and more details about Henyard's secret negotiations with federal authorities emerge, it's clear this story is far from over. The scandal has already rocked Dolton to its core, and it's only a matter of time before the next bombshell drops. One thing is certain, Henyard's days of ruling Dolton with an iron fist are numbered. The real question is, who will go down with her? To understand how Henyard ended up in this mess, we need to look back at her rise and fall. Her time in office has been marked by scandal after scandal, but nothing compares to the level of corruption and chaos she's unleashed on Dolton. Henyard's super mayor image was built on promises to clean up the town, but it didn't take long for residents to realize that instead of fixing the village, she was draining its resources. People who once believed in her vision for a better Dolton are now watching their town crumble, both financially and morally. Henyard has earned the nickname Dolton's dictator for good reason. Her troubles began with reckless misuse of funds. From the moment she took office, Henyard treated Dolton's budget like her personal piggy bank, making extravagant purchases and approving wasteful spending with no regard for the village's financial health. The evidence is everywhere, from excessive travel costs to questionable overtime payouts. What was once a thriving community is now facing a financial collapse, and it's clear Henyard's priorities were never about the people she was supposed to serve. Henyard's lavish spending habits have become the focal point of the ongoing federal investigation into her administration. One of the most egregious examples was a taxpayer-funded trip to Austin, Texas, where Henyard and her entourage racked up over $220,000 in expenses for a 5-day stay, including $111,000 spent at the upscale Fairmont Austin Hotel. This was just one of several indulgent trips to places like New York, Atlanta, and Portland, all paid for by the village. Despite growing outrage, Henyard vetoed attempts by village trustees to rein in her spending, continuing to rack up over $67,000 in travel expenses in just 5 months. But it wasn't just the travel. Henyard also spent a staggering $33,000 on Amazon in a single day, with no clear records explaining the purchases. This reckless spending, combined with a lack of transparency, has contributed to the village's financial collapse. Under Henyard's leadership, Dolton's once healthy general fund dropped from a $5 million surplus to a $2.05 million deficit by the time former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in for an independent investigation. Even more alarming is how Henyard's administration mishandled police overtime. 2 officers under her watch earned more in overtime than their base salaries, with one officer receiving over $100,000 in overtime pay alone in a single year. The financial mismanagement under Henyard's leadership has left Dolton in deep financial distress, and the fallout from her actions is far from over. Who spends over $40,000 in one day on Amazon, especially in a village with just over 20,000 people? It's difficult to justify the kind of extravagant spending Tiffany Henyard has been accused of, but financial mismanagement is just part of the story. From the start of her tenure, it was clear Henyard wasn't playing by the rules. Accusations of intimidation, retaliation, and ruthless consolidation of power quickly followed. One of the most notorious examples of her bullying tactics was her use of a personal police detail to follow residents who dared speak out against her, all funded by the very taxpayers she was draining. This security force became an extension of Henyard's power. Former Dolton Police Chief Robert Collins publicly criticized this use of resources, explaining how Henyard's constant demand for a large security detail crippled the department's ability to focus on real crime. "We needed those officers on the street fighting crime," Collins said, but instead they were riding around protecting the mayor. Henyard's heavy-handed approach didn't end there. She also retaliated against political opponents, including former trustee Valeria Stubbs, a vocal critic. Stubbs' home was shot at in the middle of the night. Though no one was harmed, Stubbs has repeatedly suggested the attack was an act of intimidation. This pattern of behavior has fueled further claims that Henyard's reign wasn't built on public service, but on fear and control, leaving Dolton in financial ruin and social turmoil. "We needed those officers on the street fighting crime, but instead we had several officers riding around protecting her." And while there's no concrete evidence directly linking Tiffany Henyard to the shooting of former trustee Valeria Stubbs, the incident has only added to the growing list of allegations against her. Henyard's behavior has become so brazen that she filmed herself shoveling snow from Stubbs' driveway during a snowstorm, taunting Stubbs by calling her a hater. To many it was a shocking and bizarre move, but for those familiar with Henyard's antics, it was just another day in Dolton. The misuse of taxpayer dollars, manipulation of village resources, and abuse of power all point to a woman who thought she was untouchable, until now. With the FBI closing in, Henyard's once impervious empire is crumbling. The federal subpoenas served to Dolton and Thornton Township indicate that the feds are tightening their grip. These subpoenas are reportedly seeking records ranging from the village's finances to Henyard's political funds and even her controversial charity, Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. The foundation, which was supposedly created to help cancer patients, has come under scrutiny for shady dealings. Not only has the foundation failed to file the required financial disclosures with the state, but it also received a $10,000 and donation from Thornton Township on the very day it was chartered. To make matters worse, documents show much of the foundation's expenses were charged to the village's credit card. This raises serious questions about the true purpose of the foundation, and whether it was just another vehicle for Henyard to enrich herself and her allies. As the investigation deepens, it's becoming clearer that Henyard's empire was built on a foundation of corruption, and the truth is finally coming to light. What's interesting about this case is that you can be legally correct, but still incredibly unethical at the same time. The revelations surrounding Henyard's cancer charity are raising more questions than answers. Over $11,000, and was reportedly spent on hotels, meals, photographers, and even DJs, leading many to wonder if the foundation was ever truly about charity, or if it was just another way for Henyard to funnel money into her personal projects. As the layers of corruption continue to peel back, it's becoming increasingly clear that Henyard's time is running out. Rumors of a potential deal with the FBI seem more plausible with each passing day, especially considering the magnitude of the charges she faces. If convicted, Henyard could be facing serious prison time, which makes it increasingly likely she will try to cut her losses and turn on her allies to avoid a lengthy sentence. The real question is, will her deal be enough to save her? And what will it mean for the rest of her inner circle? It's hard to imagine Henyard walking away from this scandal without taking a few people down with her. Already, there's speculation that Keith Freeman, her former right-hand man, has been cooperating with the feds for months. Freeman's involvement in the village's financial mismanagement is well documented, and if he's been talking to investigators, Henyard may not have as much leverage as she thinks. Then there's Lacy, the former deputy police chief, whose role in the overtime pay scandal has already raised alarms. Facing federal charges for bankruptcy fraud, Lacy could soon find himself under scrutiny. If he decides to cooperate and testify against Henyard, it could deal a devastating blow to her defense and her chances of avoiding prison. I'm about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, just me addressing you to tell you what's going on, Henyard said during one of her public addresses. Henyard's fate may now hinge on the actions of her former allies, and Carmen Carlile could play a pivotal role in bringing her down. Once a loyal supporter, Carlile has now become one of Henyard's fiercest critics. Her whistleblowing could be the final nail in Henyard's coffin. Carlile's claims of unethical behavior and manipulation within Henyard's administration are damning, and her insider knowledge of how things truly operated behind the scenes could provide the feds with the evidence they need to secure a conviction. As the investigation continues, it's clear this scandal isn't just about Henyard anymore. It's about a web of corruption that has ensnared the entire village of Dolton. Residents who once trusted Henyard to lead them are now watching their town crumble under a mountain of financial mismanagement. The village is left bankrupt, disillusioned, and reeling from the betrayal of the very person they elected to clean it up. With the FBI closing in, the question remains, how many more secrets will be uncovered before this saga is over? While rumors swirl about Henyard's potential deal with the feds, one thing is certain: whether she cuts a deal or goes down fighting, her reign as Dolton's super mayor is coming to an end. The only question left is, who will be the next to fall? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing saga.